So hope everybody's doing good today. We got Mr. Bradley Gross on. He's gonna talk about the entire history of law. We're gonna start back to the beginning.
Blackstone. We'll go back to Blackstone and we'll work our way forward. That's fine. That's fine. No problem.
There we go. There we
hmm
go. So
I'm trying to see, by
um,
the way, if I can pull up, and I might be able to. Hang on. I might be able to pull up the shirt that, there it is. So I
I just
will,
gave you co-host.
yeah, I was gonna say, I am going to show you something. Hold on. If you
It's not better
see
than
me,
mine.
hang on.
True. Very true.
If you see
Jay's
me
got
at
the
PAX 8, which you will, that's the shirt that you'll be able to get from my booth right there.
nice.
There it is. That
Nice.
is, by the way, that is breaking. Nobody has seen that shirt other than my office staff. So there you go.
Right here
That is the
on
shirt. Boom. Yes.
WTF.
There it is. So anyway,
Shouldn't it
what
say
else we're talking about
Esquire
shirts.
after your name, though?
Well, nah, because it's the law office, professional association, PA, right? After my name, it would probably say something like King of All Things or something like that. But I don't know how that would go over. So
Um, so, so
anyway,
So what I'm going to do is we're going to get us set up here on YouTube, and so we can stream out here. So if you give me just one moment. And yeah, the best email that I got today by far is email from Brad that the subject line said WTF. And I mean, it's just obviously it's appropriate for today's call, but it caught me for a split second, like, what did I do?
I just need the link. I was telling these guys before you jumped on, I didn't actually have a link in the calendar entry. So for the past 10 minutes, I've been searching, and then I thought, you know what? I was on the show months ago or so. That's how I found the link. I just joined the old link.
There we
See a
go.
lot of maneuvering going on behind the scenes here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, lots of stuff going on.
All right, so we are going live now out on the YouTube land.
Hello, America. Honeymooners reference there. Hello.
There you go. All right, so we are live. We should be live out on YouTube land right now, and we're going to kick off today's WTF. As I mentioned, we have Mr. Brad Gross, who is the attorney to the stars, the MSP stars, that is. And so we're going to kick off things with him in just one moment. We're going to talk about a few things. As we're talking about topics and thinking through what are some of the things that we can discuss, there's so many aspects of law that comes into play when it comes to operating an MSP, and there's always something changing, and obviously AI is having a big impact on how things are impacting our business, and most specifically in the area of law. So three areas of topics regarding law and AI we're going to talk about is the legal risks of AI generated contracts for MSPs. Do your client contracts address AI risks? And also AI adoption is rising, and so are the legal risks for your clients. So we're going to circle around those areas. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to jump in at any point.
Send them through.
Yeah, definitely. And so let me make sure we spotlight for everyone. There we go. We got to put him on the big screen there. Now we've got Brad on the big screen.
Uh-oh.
Um,
Oh,
for
that's
anybody
good.
that's
I don't know
out
if I have
there
a
in
face for a big screen. I might have it for a smaller screen.
smaller screen,
Just saying.
there you go. And I do know, is that a new picture up on the back there with the drives?
No,
And
I
all,
have had that since day one of opening my office. That is a sculpture that I got off Etsy, literally, wow, 13, 14 years ago when I opened the office.
okay.
It is hard drives cut in half.
Wow,
That's
that's
it.
cool. So
Uh,
apparently, I don't pay very close attention then.
yeah,
So my
it's no
wife will
problem.
probably, confirm that. quite easily. So
And that is a real TRSA. This is not a fake background. I still have the
yes,
user manual for level 1 basic if you're
that
interested
is
in
awesome.
learning basic. So,
Hello world.
right. You had to
So
number
not only
each
is
line. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, not only is Brad the CEO and founder of the law offices of Bradley Gross, you also have a new venture that kicked off last year, MSP Terms,
I do.
and love to get if you maybe give us a quick update on MSP Terms right now.
Sure. So the platform is going really well. It is a document management and business strategy platform. So one of the big aspects of it, one of the big advantages of it, is that it allows you to post any customer-facing document in a private, credentialed way that allows you to track what your customers are doing with your documents, whether they're viewing them, whether they're accepting them. It has bilateral electronic digital signature capability, so you could sign, they could sign. It offers and guarantees document immutability. So once an agreement is signed, if it's an electronic document, your customer doesn't have to worry about, did the MSP change this document on me, right? Did they? No, we guarantee immutability. And so we have that end of things. There's a library of 18, soon to be 20 legal templates on there, more than any other solution, all industry, license free in perpetuity. In perpetuity from day one. You're a subscriber, you have 18 different documents that you can access, everything from regulatory compliance to independent contractor agreements and so on. So it's really gangbusters. It's not really anything like it out there, and it's going well, and I appreciate you bringing it up. And if anyone wants a
Yeah.
demo, send me an email, demo@mspterms.com. Demo@mspterms.com. Be happy to show it to you. And we'll be at the Beyond conference showing it to people there as well.
Awesome.
Giving away those shirts, apparently.
Wearing the shirt, which I don't know if people saw, but yes, that will be, we'll
Yes.
do the, I will once again show off the shirt right here. Oh, do you see it now? No, not yet. Hold on. There it is. Okay. There's the shirt. Boom.
There
There
it
it
is.
is. So this is like, what do they call it when it's appearing for the premiere? This is the premiere viewing of the shirt.
That's
So,
awesome. And we will be there as well. Talon and I will both be there. We'll be podcasting live from Beyond. So
great.
we will definitely be chatting while we're there as well.
Absolutely.
So with that
Will
being
I be
said, I'm
able to
gonna
get to you through your throngs of fans that will be surrounding
oh
your table? Will I be
well,
able to access you?
we'll try to make special arrangements that we'll have
Okay.
security keeping an eye out for you so that
Yeah.
we can pull you in just
Yeah, just
because
let me through, right?
yeah, yeah,
Don't
absolutely.
set up the red velvet rope and I can't get past it. I get it. All right.
100%. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean you're a VIP, so
I hope so.
we gotta treat you as one.
Thank
So so let's kick things off. I'm gonna go ahead and turn things over to you for a short time, and then we'll open up just our overall questions and go from there.
Sure. So I think that one of the issues, when we were talking about what are we going to speak about today, we're talking about AI, and we're going to talk about its relationship to customer agreements, the good, bad, the ugly of it, the risks that are faced when using an AI, and so on. But I'll start off by saying something about AI that I have often said before AI was all the rage. But people were just simply doing internet searches for templates, right, and for agreements. And people would say, oh, is that a horrible thing to do? And so on. And my answer is, well, no, it's not horrible. And it's not horrible to use AI in certain ways. So what I'm about to say applies to AI as it did apply and still applies to internet searches. It is a good thing to use as an educational tool. It is a good thing to teach you at least some of the foundational aspects of an agreement, some of the issues that you should be thinking of, because you might not be thinking of all of these issues as a business owner or a technician. So there's a lot of good that can come out of just seeing kind of templates, general things about what's out there and so on. It gives you an education. Where the problem occurs, right, where the value drops off the cliff precipitously is when people are relying on it, thinking, well, AI came up with it, it's better than what I thought of, right? Not as an attorney. Let's say I own an MSP. Hey, this is better than what I had. It's better than what I thought of. I guess I should use it. And that's where the issues occur, okay? Because as great as AI algorithms are, and a lot of them are really great at doing certain things, I mean, they're just great. They're not ready for prime time when it comes to contract drafting. They're not. They are pretty good at summarizing a contract, explaining what a term means in a contract, but so far, AI just simply doesn't grasp the points that every MSP needs to grasp when doing an agreement, okay? But I'll just keep rambling until you stop me, all right? So let me just say one more thing. You have known me a long time, and so what I'm about to say to you isn't new, but maybe people who are listening haven't heard this before. An agreement for an MSP, okay, has to hit two areas. And if it doesn't hit both, it is a crappy agreement, okay? One area, ChatGPT does pretty well. Candidly, anyone can do pretty well, okay? And that's legal. So that's the stuff that we write in case you screw up as an owner, right? If everything is going great, we don't look at legal. Right? If everything's going perfect, we don't say, okay, what's our liability here? What's our limitation of liability? Who's looking? Everything's great. We look at it when we screw up, right? Then we look, all right, we have to write a check. How much are we writing the check for? No, okay. And while that's important, the truth is that anyone can write that. Okay, you could scan the internet, find a template. It'll say we've limited our liability to X dollars and we're waiving consequential, indirect, exemplary, and special damages. Got it. Okay, you could take my phone and throw it at a lawyer, a group of lawyers, which would be fun, and whoever you hit could write that. And that's where AI is right now. It can write this kind of legal stuff that it's pulled from different models and so on. Good. That is about 3% of the game. That's it, 3%. What's the other 97%? Reality, right? Situational reality. Realities that only people who are in the industry, who have lived the life, who have gone through the issues and seen the problems, that's the stuff that also has to be in your agreement that cannot, at least right now, be captured by AI, because AI is just pulling general stuff, right? It's not attending shows and speaking at shows and writing it. So, go to an AI generated agreement, okay? And tell me what it says about co-managed situations without telling it. Just say, do you have me a MSA for a service provider that does this. Tell me if the word co-managed appears anywhere in there. It won't. I've done it. It won't, right? But you'd say, well, of course co-managed. I mean, that's like half the time we provide a service, we're going in with an internal IT department. Right. AI missed that. And so now all the issues that arise from a co-managed situation, congratulations. You've saved money on an attorney or whomever it is because you used AI. But now the first situation that pops up with co-managed situations, you have absolutely no guidance because you haven't thought about that reality, right? This is what I'm talking about. Tell me about what an AI-generated agreement would say for an MSP that has an issue with a customer because the customer says, we are giving you a lot of service tickets. It's just a lot of service tickets, which means clearly, MSP, you're not doing your job because we have all these problems. Well, of course, service tickets aren't an indication, a direct indication of a MSP's failure. It actually might show you that the MSP is doing its job, that you're discovering these issues and they're launching tickets and these tickets are being handled and this is part of the process. It's not an indication that something's gone wrong, but the customer doesn't see it that way. You see, we filed 60 tickets last month. What's up with that? What does the contract say about it? Now, this is something that if you're an MSP, you're listening, yep, I've had that problem before. Show me one AI-generated model, one, which would talk about service tickets, the number of service tickets, how those are handled, what they are an indicia of, okay, where responsibility matrices should be, and so you get the point. There's nothing wrong with using AI or just doing a search for general stuff. But if you're relying on it, then all you're getting is legal, and that's 3%. That's all you're getting. That's how I'll start off. Debate me, tell me where I'm wrong as I drink my
Yeah.
energy drink here. So I'll cover the label so we don't do any endorsements, but yes.
Right. Exactly.
I mostly just use AI to create memes.
There we go.
Right,
There we
right.
go.
And
Yeah.
it's very good for that. It really is. I mean, you need something that you want to post on LinkedIn or Facebook, and you say, hey, I want to post a guy who's very happy that he got a contract, but great, it's perfect for that. But the contract itself, I mean, if you really think that you're, ahead of the game because you've done a search and it has produced a product that is better than what you could have written, well, I think that you are seriously misguided.
Mike, looks like you have a question. Go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, so I actually read Brad's book, actually even bought it. There you go. He's got
Yes.
his copy handy. I don't have my copy handy. But I don't remember reading anything about service tickets in your book.
Mhm.
Is that something that's been a recent thing? Or
Well, so I will tell you this, yes and no. First of all, I will point out that in the 3rd chapter of this book does say, okay, and I could hold it up here, but who knows if it'll actually be captured. But what it does say right here is, please use ChatGPT for your next agreement because I have kids in college and I could use the money. That is true. That's chapter 3 of the book. True story. As far as service tickets, so what you're talking about, Mike, is one of the many realities in here. And the idea of the book were, being perfectly blunt, it's selected essays. It's stuff that I've written that I think is really pertinent to MSPs and what they should know. All of the realities that we're talking about now is actually coming out in volume 2, which will be announced in a few months.
okay.
But
And
what we're
if
talking about are various realities and how AI and templates and all, and candidly, even contracts that are written by extremely smart attorneys, if they don't understand the industry, then you might as well just use ChatGPT because they'll both give you legal.
yeah,
Really, they'll both give you very good legal.
and
Yeah, tell me
going back
what,
to the beginning of your call,
yeah.
the one thing I was thinking about with your book is it's kind of like using a template before you sit down with an attorney to do your last will and testament or something
Right.
like that. You're not going to use a template, but if you do the exercise as if you were going to use a template and you're like, oh, okay, how I'm going to divide my assets, and you think through those questions and you have some time on your own time to answer them, when
Mhm.
you do sit down with your attorney, it goes way faster because you're not getting that stuff lobbed at you for the first time.
Right. That's the idea. I mean, when I sit down with an MSP to write an agreement, and I've written thousands of them, okay, I don't need to talk to an MSP to write a good agreement for them. I actually don't need to know anything about them. I could write a damn good agreement, but that's not what we do. We always spend a half hour, 45 minutes talking about their business, how they do things, because ultimately there are these nuances that I'm aware of that are handled and treated differently by different MSPs, right? Some are more product oriented, some are more service, some are more regulatory, some are more security oriented. And so there are so many different realities that if you sit down with an attorney to write an agreement and there's no discussion about, anything about that, transition services, right? How do you handle transition? What happens right now? What do you do with their data? How long do you hang on to your customer's data after the contract is over? What do you do with it? Do you have a document destruction policy? I mean, all these kinds of things. If you don't ask these questions, you don't know. If you don't know, you can't address the realities. And without reality, you have a ChatGPT contract. So you need to know these things.
Well, let me just throw one thing in before I turn it over to Joshua is, so if you were to leverage a contract by, ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever, AI platform, are they going to defend you in court if there's an issue,
No,
right?
it's certainly not. And then you'd have to ask another attorney to defend you on somebody else's contract, which can be done. All right. I mean, it's done all the time, but it's not a best practice. You know, it just isn't. By the way, you just named ChatGPT and Gemini. Which one do you like better?
Well, I have subscriptions to both of them
Hmm?
as well
So
as
do I.
Copilot. And so I have all three, and
Hmm.
I really do favor ChatGPT among the three.
Hmm.
Um, oddly, for a while, I was shifting more towards Gemini. But so here's the thing where I think there's and I'll go off a small tangent here, but we're
Hmm.
building our persona. So as we are, putting questions in there, I've mentioned to the team here before that, my daughter had some business idea, and I'm like, all right, honey, let's jump on to ChatGPT and, let's have it put together a business plan. So it did it, and just for the hell of it, I said, would Ainsley be a good employee, of this organization? And or a good founder of this organization. And it said, do you really need to ask the question? It said, that it was softball related. That she's a very seasoned athlete, that she's very good in softball. She's been playing for years. That she is an honor society student. It started going through these things. And her and I looked at each other like, holy cow, where and I'm thinking back to our history. So it's building this history on me, right? And who I am. Now, in
Hmm.
an ideal world, if I could take my persona that I built in ChatGPT and move that over to Gemini or to Copilot, where I can move that over from AI platform to AI platform, and I'm not having to start all over, that would be incredible.
Yeah, that's not going to happen for a while, though, if ever.
No,
They're
No, I mean,
competing
because it's
platforms,
like
right?
it's a mini version. We're creating mini versions of ourselves in these platforms, and obviously, that's their sticking point or their stickiness. The fact that if you've been using ChatGPT longer than Gemini, it knows you so much better. And so I do want to jump over to Joshua. Go
Hmm.
ahead and go ahead, Joshua. You're muted, Joshua. Might need to create a ticket for that.
Man, you
Yeah,
had to actually go under your desk to unmute yourself, my
I
friend. What's
just,
up with that? Where's your microphone?
it's on the desk. It's a Yeti, but it likes to switch off sometimes.
You know
So,
what? And I'm now I'm serious. Mine does the same thing. If I
yeah,
move my Yeti, literally if I move it, suddenly it'll switch to a different microphone. It's that
yeah,
sensitive.
Mm.
Yeah.
clearly a connection issue. I think it's
Hmm.
a mic or me. So, at the risk of sounding somewhat heretical, I think that not everything belongs in or at least benefits from being in your contracts. And though I do understand the point about ticketing, you have to ask yourself, what's the purpose of having it in the contract? If it's only to defend you in court, should it lead to that? That's one thing. But I never say to a customer, well, it's in your contract. When they have a question, I answer the question because, first of all, we all know most of them won't read their contracts. And if they did, they don't remember it in 3 weeks, 3 months, or 3 years. So it's really challenging to respond in that manner. When I talk about tickets, I actually send them 3 paragraph email and call them and say, when we're busy, it's helping you. When we're busy, it's making sure we don't have to be helping you. And I don't longer report automated stuff we do. I our billing and the reports they see are only from tickets they open because I fought this for a long time. Why is so much going wrong? Patching your machines is not going wrong. Dealing with updates, et cetera, et cetera. I just dropped it in 2020 onwards. All we put on those things are our responses to tickets or incident reports, alerts from SOCs and whatnot.
Yeah, I think yours is a great point, which is just because you have a contract that might cover all of the realities and try to manage expectations, you're 100% right when you say most customers don't read it. You're right. So what do you have to do? And I think this is your point, which is having a great contract does not divest you of your responsibility to remain sticky with your customer and tell them what's going on and explain things and so on. You're 100% right. At the end of the day, if you have to go back to your contract and say, see, it's in the contract right here, then you've probably, as a business process, you've probably gone the wrong way. You've probably done something wrong.
Well, I saw something just yesterday. There was something on some reel that said, if you're in a discussion with a client and it's maybe a disagreement and you feel as if you're winning, you've probably lost. You're losing that relationship. So much
Right.
like if you have to say, well, it's in the agreement, then your relationship is probably on, rocky grounds and like you said, you've lost on that policy and procedure component of it.
Yeah, that goes back to anything, any business process where you're arguing with a customer and they say, "I want my money back." Okay, so I've had clients have come to me and said, "I don't want to give them their money back. It says non-refundable." Okay, so you'll win. You'll pay me money, a lot of money. I will defend it. Legally, you're in good shape. But then they're going to trash you on Reddit, and they're going to trash you wherever you go. So, you'll win the battle. You're going to lose the major war. So I agree with you, Dan. If you're arguing with your customer over things that candidly don't need to be argued over, they're just ministerial. You know, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. You'll win, but you'll lose in the end.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Josh, is there some
and
more you want to
honestly,
jump in on that?
I don't know who you're talking to.
Oh, to you, to you. I just
Oh,
want to see
okay.
if
There
there's
was
more in
no
that area you wanted.
all I wanted to say about that is most of the things that we need to defend are in our contract. Not anything to do with ticket counts, but response times, service level agreements, escalation policies, they're all in the contractual stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, the goal is never to need your bulletproof vest. So take cover and interact with people, to break the metaphor, and keep people happy is a whole lot better than having to say, "Shh, you can't shoot through body armor." It's just a better response.
Yep.
And I know that you
Agreed. You're
get paid
100% right.
on body armor, but we should get paid for not needing it.
Right. Look, I was a prosecutor for a long time, and so I dealt with a lot of cops, a lot of detectives, and every one of them will tell you the best day is when I don't have to pull out my gun. That's the best. That's a great day when I don't have to do that, right? You have it. It's there. You'll win if you use it, but it's a better day if you never have to touch it, for sure. Hmm.
And I think it's a difficult thing because we always think about, well, it's okay, it's part of the agreement and it's the principle of it. I'm not going to let them win because it's the principle of it. They're totally, taking advantage of us, and I'm not going to just leave this because it's the principle of it. But
That's
it,
called being stubborn.
right, right. And that's the tough thing is we have to learn to let things go
Hmm.
and move on because that's the only way that we will, in my eyes, it's the only way that we're going to, continue to grow that relationship unless it's problematic and they're just not a fit for you as a client, period. Then I think
Right.
it's a different story, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, if we try to fire every client because of we don't like the way they're, dealing with us, we're not going to have any clients ever.
Keep the end goal in mind, and your end
Right.
goal is to be profitable and happy and to keep them as well. And if they abuse you over time, if you
Mhm.
continuously concede and you recognize that as a pattern of abuse, that's one thing, and then they're not going to suit your goal. But if you are arguing only on principle or quote unquote because it's in the contract, keep the end goal in mind. If your goal is to win the argument, then do that. If your goal is to keep the customer and grow them, do that. That's all.
Absolutely.
Agreed. Mic drop. The mic
Yeah.
that's under your desk somewhere. Got it. Drop that thing. Yeah.
So let's actually, Mike, did you have another question?
If we can shift gears a little bit, I have a kind of a question that hadn't happened to me, but somebody else brought up the question to me, and so
Are you asking
um
for a friend? Is that what you're doing? Is that what we're about to do here? This
um
wasn't me. Didn't happen to me. I'm just asking for a friend.
Right.
yeah, kind of like that. I saw the conversation in Discord, and it came to when you get one of your clients says, "Hey, we've got this legal discovery going on. We need you to export all the emails related to these things." Now, in recent years, when those requests have come to me, they've had a lawyer on the call, and the lawyer has said, okay, you're going to do this, this, and this. And it's like going to Office 365, here's the search parameters, this date to this date, and these keywords, and it is what it is.
Right.
And somebody else got this request that said any and all emails related to this person and these other people. And it was like, I looked at that and I said, whoa, like, I'm not a lawyer, but put the brakes on and say you need a lawyer to tell you exactly what to do, because that just seems way too vague. And then I started thinking, the next time I get one of these requests, should I have my client's attorney tell me exactly what to do? Because then I'm not going to get dragged into court for doing something wrong. Or does that make any?
Yeah, it does. It does. So what you're talking about, okay, is what we call litigation hold, or a preservation letter that you get. So this occurs when two parties unrelated, I shouldn't say unrelated, two parties, neither of whom is the MSP, are arguing, and one of them needs the records, needs the logs. So what do? Who's handling your records? Oh, ABC MSP. Great. So ABC MSP will now get a letter from one of the attorneys saying, listen, you have to preserve this evidence because we need it in this unrelated matter. It's called the litigation hold. And the idea is that you're supposed to affirmatively protect that information. Okay, affirmatively protect. That does, and I use the word affirmatively purposely, because you can't say, well, I just won't delete it. No, it's your duty at that point to affirmatively take steps to make sure it isn't deleted, whether that is preserving it in some way, shape, or form, making sure that your document destruction policies, if any, are suspended for that information, whatever it might be. Okay, so that's the MSP's duty to now preserve it. But now let's get into your point. Here's a request that doesn't just say, please preserve the records from point A to point F, okay? It says, please reserve the records. What the hell does that mean? And the answer is, I don't know, and nor does the MSP, and that would be an improper request. It's okay to request us to preserve records, but there has to be a time parameter around it that's reasonable. If there isn't, then you need to contact the person who sent you that letter and say, I can't just preserve any and all emails. You have to give me a time parameter. Yes, it is the job of the other party, let's say, whoever the other party is, to go back and say, hey, you're asking our MSP to save all these records. You have to put time parameters around it. But that often doesn't happen, because litigators don't give a crap. So they'll leave it to the MSP, in which case MSP should talk to an attorney and send out a modification or a request for a modification to limit the scope, right? There might be emails that are purely service oriented. There might be some that are communications. We want to know which ones you want us to preserve, right? So just because, I guess my long-winded way of saying, just because you get one of these preservation letters doesn't mean that you cannot conduct a conversation with the person who's sending it to you and saying, you got to limit it, right? You got to limit it. That would be my advice. And usually it's done through counsel. Mm-hmm.
And do you recommend having a lawyer on the call whenever you're doing any of those things? Because I've heard that if you do, then that information, whatever you did, becomes client attorney privilege information, and no one can come back on you later and say, you didn't do this right, or please tell us how exactly you did this, because you could say, oh, I did this at the direction of the attorney, and that's client attorney privilege information. Is that a thing?
Yes and no. Once you say, I did it pursuant to attorney's instructions, okay, you can't then turn around and say, well, what did your attorney instruct you to do? Well, that's attorney-client privilege. No. You cannot do that, because you have then opened the door to the discussion of what was discussed. So if you say, I did A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but I did A, B, and C because that's what my attorney told me to do. Well, maybe I can't ask you about DEFGH or something, but once you say that's what my attorney told me to do, well, then the next question is, what did he tell you to do? What did she tell you to do? Right? Well, that's privilege. No, it isn't. You say that you acted because of what they told you to do. What were those instructions? I don't need to know your whole conversation with your attorney at all, but you can't use it as a sword and a shield, right? You can't say, I did this, use it as a sword because that's what my attorney said to do. And then when they ask you what was discussed, oh no, that's privileged. No, you can't do both. As far as including an attorney on a phone call with you, yeah, that helps. If it's just the company and its attorney, then that discussion is a privileged communication. Very often, and this gets down a little bit of a rabbit hole as far as attorney-client privilege and when it's can be invoked and so on. Very often, attorneys will actually conduct the work product. They will conduct the investigation, and therefore anything they find is attorney work product. That's also privileged. So, quick example for people saying, "What is he talking about?"
Okay, I have had an attorney that said, "Hey, create an account with these permissions in 365 and let us in, and we're going to do this."
Right.
And
You'll often see it that way. You'll see it in the area of pen testing or an investigation of into a forensic exam. For example, I have had clients in the past that have had breaches, and I will hire the forensic team. Okay. I will send them in. I will find out what the weaknesses are. I will find out what happened. Okay. Now the person who suffered from the breach says, what did they find? I'm not telling you what they found. That's attorney work product. I know what they found. And now I can have a discussion with my client, attorney-client privilege, about, what I suggest they do and so on and so forth. You see, there are ways to preserve a lot of this information using attorneys. And my best advice, because we're never going to be able to cover it all in this type of forum, is, yeah, if you're not sure, just default to an attorney and have a discussion with him or her and go that route. It's usually worth the money that you're paying to get that confidentiality and that privilege invoked.
and if the request is coming from the party that's in a legal issue with your client, are you okay with bringing in your client's attorney, or would you go out as MSP and get your attorney
No,
outside of a relationship with your client?
no, you don't have the attorney-client privilege attached for your client's attorney that's asking you questions. It only attaches to the attorney that you have hired, that you have the direct relationship with.
Okay.
So on
Yeah.
a
I went through one where they did, my client had an attorney on each call, and I thought it was kind of dumb because the attorney wasn't even familiar with any of the New York State reporting laws and all that because they were from a different state, and I wondered
Data
why
breach
they had to
laws and
do
that kind
that.
of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was dumb on two levels. One, the attorney wasn't familiar with the laws. And then two, if they thought that because they're an attorney, any conversation that they are a part of suddenly becomes privileged, they are way wrong. Way wrong.
Yeah, they didn't suggest that. I heard that from someone else, and I
Oh,
wondered if that's why they perhaps put an attorney on the call, even though they weren't familiar with our state's laws.
nah, the attorney needed to bill some hours, and that's how it worked out.
I do suspect in hindsight that the insurance company has relationships, let's say, with the forensic team they used and the attorneys they used and all that.
Mm,
And that's why they were putting hours on it. But
yep.
I don't
right.
know.
On another topic, as far as leveraging AI, of course, it is the big buzzword right now, and we're talking AI in so many realms, and we're going to our clients if we're having proper discussions with them about ways that they can improve their business. This topic is going to come up naturally. Um, so, I'm a firm believer that if you are not leveraging AI, if AI is not on your payroll, I mean, Taylor and I, we joke that ChatGPT, we call her Bertha. So if Bertha's not on your payroll, then you're missing out.
Just
And
don't make any tax deductions for that. But all right, yeah, go on.
right, exactly. So
We're
when we
not at
take a
that
look
point
at
yet.
this,
Hmm.
right, right. So when we take a look at this, um, we're getting out in front of our clients, we're having these discussions, and it could be as simple as how do they leverage ChatGPT and Copilot, but it also could be that their line of business application has some AI built into it, and maybe we're suggesting that they do some upgrades to take advantage of that. Or maybe in much more rare situations, they're building, we're working with them to build some type of chat bot,
Hmm.
just enhance their level of service and their client experience. So with that all being said, how does this change our agreement that we have with the client? And how does this impact the best way for us to educate our clients, not just say, hey, yeah, go out, use this, but there needs to be some asterisks at the end of that, go out and
Yeah.
use this.
Well, so what you're talking about really, the big issue, okay, is the question of how is the AI using the data that you're entering into or that you're receiving, and that goes to training models, right? That goes to how, how does the data that you've entered into the algorithm, how is it limited to just that particular session or that analysis and then it is anonymized or never used again? Or is it somehow incorporated into a larger database where it is and could be reproduced? And that gets into privacy law, right? And how your data is being used and what information you have to convey to your customers and what they should be conveying to their end users. So ultimately, I would say that if you're thinking about incorporating AI, then you should have an AI related privacy policy that discusses what you're doing and what the AI model is doing with its data. Is it going to be used for training purposes or will it not be? Okay. That's the hot button topic right now. That's where I think MSP should be focused. The good news is that virtually all, in fact, I would say all, but I don't know if every one of them follows this model, but virtually all of the AI tools have opt out of training model uh, um, authorizations or
Right.
permission areas. So, Gemini has it. I know ChatGPT does, Copilot does. They all have it. You just have to go to the right site and then you can opt out and so on. It's really about informing. It's about awareness. Are you making your customers aware of how the data is being used? If you are, you'll stay out of trouble. If you're not, that could be a problem.
And so if we're suggesting to them that, even in the simplest form of them leveraging, Copilot as an example, but we're not clarifying some of the legalities, such as do not take, data that's got sensitive, information in it, and post it in there. And, so I guess let me back up a second. So we can suggest Copilot is a way to increase efficiencies, productivity,
Hmm?
et cetera. And then we just leave it at that. But then we don't add on what are the risks? Are we at risk because we've suggested that tool?
Yeah, so you're leaving yourself vulnerable. I mean, will it ever come back to bite you? Maybe, maybe not, but you're certainly leaving yourself vulnerable. And I think that as these models become more ubiquitous and their training models become more aggressive, like you were just saying, right, Dan, about how you ask the model about your daughter, suddenly you realize, oh, crap, it does know that my daughter plays soccer. Oh, crap, it also knows this about my daughter, right?
Right.
As that kind of stuff comes to light, you're going to see greater inquiries from government and regulatory agencies, from customers, maybe from plaintiffs' attorneys, saying,
Yeah.
"Did you tell us about this? Why? Why is the stuff that I assumed was subject to reasonable security and privacy suddenly in a training model?" So I would suggest to stay ahead of the curve and talk to your customers about it. Disclose it.
So yeah, so could your ChatGPT or whatever AI platform history be subpoenaed in a court case? And
Yes.
so in that case, then let's think about the fact that we preach to all of our clients to separate business from personal. And I will be the first to admit that I have one ChatGPT account. one subscription. I've got one for Gemini, one for Copilot, but I use it for personal and business all at the same time.
Right.
Um, right? Big mistake.
Huh. Could be. I mean, ultimately, if something happens and that account is subpoenaed, yeah, they're going to find out a whole lot about you, right?
Well, that kind of goes back to where I was, where you want the lawyer to be really specific in exactly what their search
We're
criteria
asking for sure.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably want to start a throwaway account if you're going to ask it how to dispose of a body.
Well, it's funny you say that because I was just thinking that as Dan was talking. I'm thinking about I think it was the Karen Reed case that's now the hot thing on court TV and all, right? About how somebody in that case, I believe, was searching for like how long can somebody survive in the cold, right? How long does it take a dead body to do this and that and so. Yeah, this stuff is readily available unless it's deleted or anonymized and so on. So I think that bring it back to the business perspective as opposed to learning how to kill someone. And if that's your business, that's a different podcast.
Right.
So yeah, I think that you'd be well off to delete your history because you never know how it could be used for good or bad. And yeah, you should have separate accounts for business and personal.
And one question I have, I don't know if you know this, but when you delete your history, I have not looked at the terms here. Is your history truly deleted, or is it recoverable by OpenAI?
Well, it depends on if it's been incorporated by OpenAI or not, right?
Right.
Theoretically, and I say theoretically because I have not tested this theory yet, but theoretically, if you have told the model to not take your personal data and incorporate it into a training model, okay, and you delete history and you delete your searches and so forth. And I know that, for example, Google allows you to delete your history permanently. If you believe them, then you wouldn't be able to find that stuff.
Right.
Fortunately for most police detectives, people don't know how to do that. So it's readily available,
Yeah, absolutely. And Jay, we've have you tagged in a database as a very experienced Redditor, referencing your throwaway account and your search your search history there. So just duly noted.
Who's it
Jay,
a
you're fine.
surprise if Jay needs a throwaway anyway?
So maybe next week we'll do a podcast about deleting your stuff, buying a burner phone. I mean, we could do a whole Breaking Bad episode if you really want. I mean, that's how MSPs can break bad. Oh, that's fun.
Joshua, he is in New Mexico, so we could incorporate, Joshua into
Good
that.
point.
So
Go to where it all happened. That's right. Or at least where it was all filmed.
right, exactly. So other questions that you guys have, I have other questions, but if you guys have other AI related questions to legal and I want to throw them out there, anybody? Anybody? So let's take a look right now.
I do have a question.
Yeah, go for
I
it.
referred to this earlier as something that happens all the time. So there may be a case where one of the MSPs that wasn't quite clever enough to engage with you directly is going to need to hire you to support them in a legal action or defend themselves in a legal action. Apparently, from your comment, that's something you would consider. Can I presume you would want to review the contractual stuff prior to accepting that engagement?
Well, I have accepted engagements when we are on the defense, okay,
Okay.
with weak contracts. I think that the value of reviewing the contract in advance is not necessarily whether I'm going to take the case or not, but it's to be able to give a realistic of the success or lack thereof, right? Future success or lack thereof of the matter, so you can manage your customers, your clients' expectations. So yeah, I've taken cases where the contract really, 9 out of 10 times is going to go against my client, but maybe 1 out of 10 times it will. As long that's why I'd want to review it.
So sometimes when you're taking those, when you agree to take those cases, you're like, okay, I'm going to take this case, but what I'm seeing right now, your best bet may be to just pay them because
Right, to
fighting
settle or
it is,
what we can do
yeah.
and right and work something out and so forth. Not every matter is approached with I'm going to win this case or I'm going to, or it's just going to be a nuclear disaster. There's a lot of gray, right? Even in contracts that are quote cut and dry, there's a lot of gray. As long as, you tell the customer, the client, what to expect and what the risks are, so they go in with an open and thorough understanding. Yeah, that's fine.
All right, and one more softball question for you. So do you do
Yes.
any in the
One.
world of M&A? Do you work buy side or sell side for any MSPs?
I'm doing both right now as we speak.
Yeah, that was very clever.
I am most often, if you're going to say, what do you do most often? 8 out of 10 times I will represent the seller, the MSP, right? Because more and more what we're seeing is that the buyers are private equity groups or, much larger entities that come in with larger law firms and so forth. And the MSPs will come to us. I do have clients, however, that actively search for and purchase other MSPs, and we represent those companies as well. But most often, we represent the seller, not the buyer.
Understood.
How do those usually go? Is it generally you just helping them come up with terms, like you said, that meet reality? Like if they say, okay, for the next 2 years, you're going to be part of it, and then you'll get a percentage of any renewals or anything, just to make sure that all the clients don't leave at the end of their
I mean, that's
contract
one
because they know
aspect
the
of it.
owners. Yeah.
Yeah, what you're talking
So
about
is it just
is like an earn out type of thing that's based on the
right?
revenue, continued revenue. And if you might have a spectrum within which if it goes above this, you get a bonus. If it goes below it, we deduct and so on. Earn outs are certainly part of a buy.
So is most of the work just kind of hashing out that kind of stuff, or is it
Um, if it is an experienced buyer, right? So they come to the table with counsel that has done this before. That's wonderful because then really what we're working at is not so much the nitty gritty of the reps and warranties and are these foundational representations that should survive termination. That stuff is that stuff is put aside. It's pretty much settled. Now we could just get into, okay, what's the earn out going to be? What are the expectations? What are the KPIs? What are the milestones? Business stuff. And then making sure that's post covenants that you're going to lay on this person. That type of thing, that's the reality, if you will, to focus on. And you see that when you're dealing with an experienced buyer because they come to the table and all the stuff about you're going to warrant and represent that your organization is empowered to do business in every state in which, okay, got it, right. If we're negotiating that, then you don't have a sophisticated buyer.
And Mike, it is not a given that there'll be an earnout or any other contingencies. There are deals that are
right?
all
Yeah.
cash, so to speak.
All cash. I'm doing one now. All
Yeah,
cash. Mhm.
I know this from experience of working with other people that are going through this.
And then
Okay.
you just start to negotiate it, right? An all cash deal is worth something. It has value as opposed to an earnout, right? So maybe the purchase price is going to be reduced a little bit, but it's all cash. Yeah, something like that. These are the kinds of things that we negotiate, that we love to negotiate, candidly. I don't know why we love that, because I'm mentally ill, I guess. This is what I love to do. But yeah, if we're getting into the nitty gritty, it's like what Dan was talking about earlier. If you're at the point where you're arguing with your customer, you're at a bad spot. Well, if you're at the point where you're arguing about, organization of the company and the formation of it in the documents, that's a messy sale, and you might want to look for a more sophisticated buyer.
I think the reason you love to negotiate is like most of the guys on the call, we've all had dating in our life. We've been negotiating whether we call it that or not. Get married, the negotiation continues. We all enjoy negotiating. We're running a business. I mean,
You're
it's what
giving away the trade secrets here. You got to stop
Right.
that.
whole life is
Stop giving away the trade secrets, Josh.
Yeah.
Where's your man card? I'm revoking it. We've revoked your man card for 60 days, Josh. I'm sorry for revealing that. I'm sorry. That's it.
Like
You'll
Facebook
mail it to
mail.
Dan.
I got to step out.
Yeah.
Really, thank you.
Of course.
All right. Take care, Jeff. So any final questions? I think we have time for one more question here.
What time's happy hour?
Depends on
5 o'clock somewhere.
Are we talking about today? Are we talking about PAX 8 Beyond?
I'm not going to that.
Any day that
Okay.
ends in a Y.
There you go. If there aren't any other questions, just for the next couple of minutes.
Are you going
you have a
to secure next week?
Yes, I will be down there. Are you going to be there?
The jury's out. We'll see.
Oh, you broke up. I don't know if that's.
Oh, I said the jury is out. We'll see if they have a spot. But it's a great event either way, whether
Yeah.
I'm there or not.
Yeah, I'll
Yep,
be
I'll
on
be
the
on
panel
the-
with you.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll be on the panel on Tuesday at 10:30. Who is that just?
Tony.
Oh, Tony. There we go. Yes, Tony. There you are. How you doing, brother?
Good, brother. Just listen in the background. Amazing
Awesome.
information.
Yep,
Absolutely incredible
looking-
information. I just want to
looking
know
forward
about
to
Jay.
chatting
So
with
just to be clear, we all know instead of going to Chat GPT, we go to JGPT if we want to do some really dark stuff because JGPT is trained.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no
And-
comment.
Can neither confirm nor deny.
And now Tony will tell us how to get rid of a burner phone. Go, Tony. Go.
Yeah,
I mean, with a
I mean,
last
Tony-
name like Francisco, I think you'd have a little inside knowledge too, Tony.
Tony is the original Florida man, right?
I am still in my tank top, native form.
Any parting words, Brad, in regards to the law side of AI adoption and incorporation in our
Yeah, I
business?
just think that we shouldn't fear AI. I mean, the whole fear of, oh, it's going to take over, it's going to replace this and that. No, it's a good tool. It's a great tool to use. It gives great background information. It helps you set yourself on the correct path. It is not something that should be relied on for mission critical stuff. It is not something that should be relied on as a final, right, version of whatever it produces. But I'm not one to say, don't look at AI because it's horrible and it'll, you're in trouble. Nah, as long as you handle it responsibly and understand what it can do for you and where the gaps are, I don't have a problem with AI.
And let's face it, search engines are seeing a decrease in their searches. Tools like ChatGPT certainly are, taking, a huge leap, and it clears through the clutter. Sorry about that. Clears through the clutter. But like you said, it might bring you to, a final answer that you feel is much better than, doing a Google search where you've got to still, kind of filter through things, but that is not the definitive answer, and you still have to make, educated decisions, and you don't take it at face value.
Like anything that we're doing. Here's a little inside baseball into my life. I'm thinking about, and maybe someone will talk me out of this. Okay, I'm thinking about maybe getting an RV to travel across the country, right? An RV. Yeah. Go on the ChatGPT or any of these, and you can investigate them all up to this, that, and so on. But until you go and sit and drive one, you're not going to, you don't buy it based on ChatGPT saying a lot of people have had excellent reviews on this model, but you got to drive the thing. You got to drive it. You got to rent one first and live in it for a little bit. Same with AI agreements. It's cool
Hey, Brad,
to do investigation.
If it's got wings, tits, or a prop, rent it.
Got it. I might rent it first. Understood.
You can substitute wheels for wings.
Oh, I get it. No, I know where you're going with that. Yes. Rent it. Yeah. If only you could well, never mind. We're being recorded. I won't go there. I got it, and you're right. Yes.
And know how to
Awesome.
parallel park it.
Yes, there you go.
Well, I use AI to parallel park it, so that's fine.
Right. Well, we are at the top of the hour. I want to be respectful of everybody's time, and I want to thank Brad for joining us here. As always, it's always great to have you bring your knowledge and insights from the legal world into the MSP world, and we greatly appreciate that. So,
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, guys.
everybody have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to everybody soon. Take
So
care.
long, boys.
Be safe,
See you
everyone.
guys.
Bye.